Welcome everybody this morning. It's really lovely to see you here. And I've been thinking what it would be like to do 3 sessions a week for the next 2 weeks and to see how that grows. And if we build a lot of momentum, I'll continue on that. So it's kind of an experiment to see the impact if we have more and more people coming and benefiting. And I'm really curious as to the kind of more long-term effects. I do also want to note, because loads of people have been asking me questions after the session on email, that I'm unable to do that. I get like 50 questions after each one of these sessions, and I'm not able to do that. So if you do have questions, I can only answer them in the session. I'm sorry. That's why I give the 15 minutes in order to have a little bit of private information and requests and instruction, etc. So this morning, what I want to focus on is coherent breathing. Right? And actually, I think we might focus on this much of this week because it is so powerful. And I know there are loads of questions that come up in terms of what is definitively beneficial if somebody has COVID-19, if somebody does not, and across the board is going to be supportive. And so I've been going through the research a lot because these questions keep coming up to me all the time. And unequivocally, just slowing down the breath has the greatest amount of research. And I know that's very simplistic, but I want to stick with what we know to have benefit, even though, I like to go into tangents and teach you other practices as well. So coherent breathing is slow breathing, but at a very particular rate, 5 breaths a minute, where we inhale for a count of 6 and exhale for a count of 6. So the breathing cycle is 12 seconds. Now, some of the benefits associated with this, just briefly. 1, reduced inflammation. And we see this actually in research. And so the benefit of this potentially to reduce some kind of secondary symptoms if we have a non-serious case of COVID-19 might be present. I want to emphasize the might. We have a better matching of ventilation and perfusion, which means we maximize the amount of air that can move through the pulmonary wall at this rate. And we also increase something called heart rate variability, which is a measure of flexibility within our autonomic nervous system, our ability to go from a rest to a mobilized state and back, and is a very important measure of health. So we'll be focusing on that primarily this week in different means, through different avenues. So what I want to start with, because inhaling for a count of 6 can actually be quite long for many of us, is just opening up the lungs through certain positions that support that. So what we're going to do is settle in first and foremost, and then I'll take you through. So have your eyes downcast or closed. And just notice the breathing. Feel the inhale and the exhale. And sense where you feel movement in the body. Do you feel a slight rising and falling of the belly? Do you feel the ribs kind of moving out laterally and then back? Do you feel lift in your chest? And there's no right or wrong at this present moment. I just want you to notice what you can feel, to really come in contact with the nature of your natural breath. Okay. And now we're going to take the first anatomical position. So I want you, and you don't have to open your eyes. My instructions should be clear, but you can if you want to, of course. So place your thumbs in your armpits. Have your elbows and shoulders in one line. And what this does is it lifts the apex of the lungs. And so it specifically brings the air into the upper chest, which is not something I generally do because it can cause anxiety if done too often. But we just want to open the lungs a little. So inhale. And feel that expansion there. Exhale. Just do this for about half a minute, letting the breath really enter the upper part of the lungs, support movement there. And when we do this, we're also exercising the internal intercostal muscles. These are the muscles that support the lifting of the ribs forward and out to the side. Now you can see my elbows are kind of hanging down a little. We need to lift them again. There's that tendency, even in me, who's been doing this for like 20 years, right? It's just the body doesn't want to hold up that position too long. And release. And to get to the tippy tops, place the hands on the back like this, the elbows upwards. Try to relax the shoulders. We'll just stay here for like 20 seconds because I don't want to tense our shoulders. So just breathe, just sense how this position impacts your breathing. Rather than me telling you, I want you to just notice. Your own lived experience is for sure your best guide. And release. Okay, and just some shoulder rolls. Yeah. And the other direction. Okay. And now I'm going to show you my favorite position for bringing the breath down into the lower lungs and for maximizing with ease and with no effort on your part, the movement of the diaphragm, which is coming into a supine spinal twist. Now, if you don't want to come down onto the mat for any reason, because I don't know, you're with somebody else, you don't have space, what you can do instead is either literally hold on to a chair that you're sitting on behind you like that, and holding onto the backs, or at least imagining. But it is preferable, if you can, if you follow me and do this. So I'm going to come onto the mat. Right? You can be anywhere. You can be in your bed. And then I'm going to cross my left leg over my right, just like that. And I'm going to let, without lifting my shoulders up off the floor, and that's really important, my legs move to the right, and they do not need to touch the ground. It's so much more important that I keep my shoulder blades on the ground. If you'd like, you can look to your left as well for a full spinal twist. But that's not really the focus. The focus is what happens to the breathing here. They completely stabilize and actually prevent the internal intercostal muscles from moving. And so the process changes, and you can't help but engage in diaphragmatic breathing. So we're just going to stay here on each side for about a minute or so, just breathing into the lower lungs without effort, and breathing out, and really sensing that descent of the diaphragm, and then the lifting again, right? It's subtle. Feeling the rising and falling of the belly is something that is more gross in terms of sensation. But can you focus on the subtlety of that descent down, the contraction, and then the springing back up on the exhale? And now rise up and cross the legs. Draw the right over the left. Keep the shoulder blades on the ground, the arms in a T, and then let the legs come over to the left side. You can look to the right if you'd like to. It's up to you. Your neck should be comfortable. And again, I just want you to sense into the feeling of the descending diaphragm here. And the reason we're doing it on both sides is because you're squishing the lungs at the top of the bottom, right? The top part of the lower lungs, a little bit on the left versus the right more, depending on where you twist. So I just want to maximize that. You getting the symmetrical experience for your lungs. And if you happen to be a chest breather and you have trouble, by the way, shifting down into more diaphragmatic breathing, this is a wonderful technique that you can use every morning to help train your diaphragm to move more efficiently. And it's simple. It's so simple. And now rise back up to the center. And I'm going to help you to slow down your breath to come to the coherent rate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a chime track. So you don't have to sit up, by the way. You just, because you might actually want to lie down for this. It can be really relaxing, right? Another reason I had you come down to the ground. You can have your knees pointing towards the ceiling with the soles of your feet on the ground, or just completely flat legs, whatever feels better for you, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count down your breathing so that we slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. And then I'm going to place the chime track on, which cues at exactly every 6 seconds. And from one chime, ding, to the next chime, you inhale. And then from the next chime to the one that follows it, you exhale. Now, it's very possible that many of us will find it difficult to inhale all the way from one chime to the next, exhaling from that chime all the way to the next one. If that's the case, I ask that you don't force the breath. As soon as you try to make the inhale longer than is naturally comfortable for you in this moment, you strain the lungs and you reduce any benefit that you would have otherwise accrued. I cannot emphasize enough that you shouldn't do that. So rather, you just inhale for as long as you can naturally and comfortably, and you wait. It's just a second or two. The chime will come, and then you exhale. And likewise, if you find it arduous to exhale from that chime all the way to the one that follows, just wait. And if you don't press your lungs, you don't push the air out or pull the air in to make the breath longer, naturally in time, it will happen. And also, you will still receive the benefits and the relaxation associated with this practice, which you will compromise if you push or pull the breath. And finally, don't worry about synchronizing your breath and the chimes perfectly. That takes time. It's just a cue in the background to help you. Don't get attached to it. Now, with that said, I want you to, on your back ideally, but it's absolutely fine if you prefer to sit up, begin with me. Inhaling, 1, 2. Exhaling, 1, 2. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put on the chimes now. Just find your natural way with them. And just allow your breath now to be natural. Letting go of the control. Maybe you hear the reverberation of the chime in your mind, and it's kind of cueing you, and that's fine. But just let go. But keep a clear watch on your breath. Notice it. Notice the inhale, the exhale. Bring the mind actively to the breath. It might have been that for you, during this coherent breathing, you were so very present that the mind stayed, that the chimes and the attention to elongating the breath kept you here. And so you are continuing with that kind of attentional control energy, or it may be that it didn't keep you there, that the mind was still busy. Either way, I want you to actively now imagine that the mind is a thing and that it can actually be stuck to the breath, but it takes a while, it moves away, right? It gets animated and agitated, and you bring it back and you stick it to the breath. And then it flutters away with thoughts and emotions, focusing on other sensations. And you notice and you bring it back. Each time you notice where it goes. This is an act of mindfulness. And then you stick it to the breath again so that it stays with the breath throughout the beginning of the inhale to the end, to the beginning of the exhale, to its cessation, to any possible pause you have before the next arising inhale. And the mind will go again, and you stick the mind back on the breath, and it flutters away. You imagine that it has that capacity, that through regular training, that you can actually bring the mind to the breath in such a way that it cannot move out, cannot get lost in its worries and imaginings, but it moves into something simple, consistent, and clear. And to do this in part, the mind must be interested in the breath. What is it doing? You must see the breath as more than just an object you're fighting your mind to pay attention to. That has consistency and boredom associated with it, and rather, each breath is unique. Remembering the power of breath, its absolute necessity moment by moment for you to be here. How breathing is your perfect sharing with the environment. You are always taking in and giving back without fail. And then maybe the mind will want to be with the breath. We'll stick with it. Our musings and ruminations that arise during meditation really don't give us that much as a general rule, whereas the breath does. It's profound and clear and simple. And it doesn't say anything to try and convince you like the mind does. It just flows. It asks nothing of you. And yet it exists there for you every moment of your life, to attend to, knowing that in so doing, you become calm. Feel each inhale of the air entering the nose, and the exhale as it exits, and you can feel it in the moment when the body chooses, with no input from you, as to when to breathe in again. If only we could trust in the things happening around us as much as we could in the breath. And so from it, we can find a sense of stability, of certainty, of ease, in the ocean of anxiety, uncertainty, especially now for so many of us. We can start there, we can build just the breath. Thank you so much, everyone, for your practice. Feel free to continue to keep watching the breath, to be meditating in the background. You can turn off the meeting, you can leave it now if you'd like, or just be there in the distance. And I'm here to answer any questions that might crop up until 8:45 if there are none. And of course, I leave the meeting earlier. I would like to say that, a lot of you have written to me about how grateful you are for these sessions. I'm also grateful. It gives me a chance to practice. And I've been so inspired by doing this that I actually applied this weekend for another MSc in respiratory medicine. And I don't think I would have done that without all of you constantly showing up here. So really, thank you. And I feel emotional about it. I'm not certain I'll be able to attend because, I run the Minded Institute and help with the parliamentary group and lots of different things. But I'm praying that the universe will give me the space in my life to be able to go. And so thank you. It'll start in September. If all goes well. Anyway, it looks like some questions are coming in. The first one's from Megan. And Doxa, you've taken yourself off mute, so I assume you want to go as well. But Megan, do you want to go first?
Oh, I don't mind. Yeah. Thank you so much, Heather. Oh, sorry.
Because I promise.
Go ahead.
By the way, tomorrow is my only workshop this week. I'm really busy this week doing other teaching things, and that's tomorrow 2 to 6, anxiety skills. So if you want to sign up for that, that was the only announcement. And I'll be here again Wednesday. Megan, go ahead. Thanks.
Hi. Thanks, Heather. It's always so wonderful to have you guide us. It's amazing. Just a question about the chimes. I love the chimes, but if we're working with someone who's over 6 foot or has a lot of experience with breathing from singing, or what would you recommend if they find that they need to even slow down more? Because I know counting is not necessarily something we want to do over 20 minutes because it engages the mind. I would just love your input on that.
Okay, so if the reason that they want a slower breath is because they have a greater breath capacity, I would still stick with the chimes. because
Okay.
if they're between 5 to 6 feet of height and an adult, this rate still maximizes heart rate variability, even if they think that they want it to be longer, which is a very common experience when I offer this technique to people that have done a lot of breath training. But if they're taller than 6 feet in height, and because you've done the training with Pat and Dick, you know that you can slow the breath down more, I would say find a free app that allows you to navigate the exact rate, about 4.5 breaths per minute. I've heard of something called the breathing app. I think it's free. I'm not sure, that allows you to input the amount of time, and it will also have some kind of cue associated with it.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Well, there'll be loads of apps. I mean, everybody's getting on the app bandwagon with breathing rates. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. I think, Janice, you want to ask a question. You haven't raised it, but you've unmuted yourself. There is the...
Sorry. No,
Yeah?
I didn't want to ask a question. Sorry. No.
Right. And the other person that has unmuted themselves is Samantha Cook.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thanks, Heather. I find these so useful. I'm not able to. I wanted to ask you about the diaphragmatic breathing sitting on the chair, because I'm not able to do the movement on the ground at the moment due to a small injury, and I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to be doing while sitting in the chair and doing the diaphragmatic.
Sure. So what you do, place your arms behind you, and you want to grab onto the lower part of the chair behind you, because it does the same kind of thing, which is it stabilizes the muscle groups that usually are active during what we call accessory or chesty breathing, and prevents them from moving. And when that happens, you can't but have more descent from the diaphragm. So you just hold on behind you like this.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Doxa, I don't know if you did or didn't have a question. I know that you had unmuted yourself and then you re-muted.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. I just don't have a question. I just wanted to say congratulations to you, and I wish you every success. And I also hope the universe provides you the space to do your qualification. Thank you.
That's so sweet. That's really, really kind. Thank you. Anyone else wants to ask a question? You can either unmute yourself, or at the bottom of the screen, you can toggle, and there's a participant thing. You click on that, and then below all of the names, it'll say raise hand, and then I'll know. Okay, well, somebody's unmuted themselves. Ray Taylor, do you want to ask a question?
Hi there, Heather. I hear different ways that, people say breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, and you've mentioned none of that. Is there a difference?
Between breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, or breathing in and out of the nose, or yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
first of all, it's definitely optimal to breathe in and out of the nose for so many different reasons. Out of the mouth is a little bit, or out of the nose, a little bit less important, but breathing in and out of the nose, as a general rule, unless you're doing a specific technique for a particular reason, is better. One, you have your hairs within your nose that will trap any particles that would otherwise enter your respiratory tract. Two, you have nitric oxide, which is a gas that has many different positive effects in your body, but it's an antiviral, and you have a lot of it within the nasal cavity, and you want to do that not just during this time of COVID-19, but in general. You want to make sure that any air coming in is passed through this antiviral to prevent the likelihood of infection. And then finally, we also know that breathing in and out through the nose, breathing in through the nose has an effect on associated areas, memory areas in the brain. And if you're engaging in a breathing technique with positive thinking at the same time, it has a greater capacity to enhance in the future your positive relationship to breathing. Now, breathing out of the mouth is less of an issue, and sometimes we want to do this when we sigh out. However, it is slightly more drying, so it's the most optimal choice, but sometimes it's just nice to have a big
Yeah.
And I recommend that at times, but nasal breathing is preferable as a general rule, unless you can't because you're congested, or you're in the middle of a huge moment of panic, where also it will be challenging to breathe out of the nose. I know that was very verbose, but I wanted to cover the bases.
No, it makes a lot of sense. One other question, if I can, is given that there is more and more suggestion that we might be wearing face masks,
Mhm.
is that limiting the amount of oxygen we're taking in, because we'll be breathing in carbon dioxide as well, I guess.
Well, carbon dioxide is something that, more we're breathing out. I wouldn't worry that it gets trapped between
Okay.
us and the mask, and so we can't breathe in enough oxygen. I mean, of course, there is going to be an impact if you're going around and you need to wear a mask, but I wouldn't worry that the impact was so great that it would reduce your oxygenation. However, if you slow down your breathing rate, you do enhance your oxygen
Yeah.
saturation, so you can do that if you're concerned about it compromising the uptake.
Brilliant. Super session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lisa Goldblatt, it looks like you've raised your hand.
Hi, Heather. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
My question is, when I've done congruent breathing in the past, I've always thought that you need to breathe in for, say, 4 and out for 1 longer. So in for 4, out for 5. And that brings you into your parasympathetic nervous system.
So this is, you mean coherent breathing? Because this, you said,
Yes.
okay. So coherent breathing is terminology that was applied by Stephen Elliott to this exact rate. So if you're using that formula, no. You are correct, though, that when you elongate the exhalation in relationship to the inhalation, it does evoke a greater parasympathetic response. And on many of these breath sessions that I've done in the morning, we have elongated the exhalation. And if you're suffering from very severe anxiety in a moment, you probably would want to preface that above this. So the benefits are slightly different, although this can also stave off anxiety. But I felt that the benefits of this were so significant that I wanted to start with this morning. And to come back to your initial question, this is the coherent breathing rate, not what you've just said. But people have loads of different variations of slow breathing, and many of them have great benefit.
Great. Well, I did feel very calm afterwards, and it was really lovely. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, I'll let you go about your day. And by the way, I've also thought about it because a lot of people have asked me, and in a few weeks when I have time, I will do a training in how to teach other people coherent breathing. This is very basic, what I'm delivering here with you guys, and there's, not a lot to know, but complications can arise, and so I might do a training to help with understanding more about it if you guys are interested.
Stripey.
Stripey.
Morning. It's about the 4-part breath and the pauses at the end of inhale and end of exhale. That's where I feel I get the peace. And so I actually found this was fast and I was almost struggling, but I guess that's the point. You go to the struggle and you observe, but I was trying to use the full inhale and the full exhale, but no pausing was not so relaxing.
Well, firstly, if it's new for you, that can be the case, especially if you have something that you do that supports you in a very particular way and you're uprooting this. So actually the point of this breath is not the same as with mindfulness, where you're meant to be with a challenge and just stay present. It is physiologically meant to evoke a sense of relaxation, but it is not uncommon if somebody uses an alternative breath technique and then is suddenly asked to do this, especially without a pause, that it can jar the system a little bit. I find that if you do about 3 20-minute sessions of this, because I've been teaching it to thousands of people for about, 8 to 10 years, that it changes. Now, in terms of the value of having that 4-part breath with the pause after the inhale, the pause after the exhale, that's definitely going to be marked. I don't teach it all the time because people can have reactions to breath holds, although I might do one in this series and can get nervous. But the value of that for peace that you're probably having is that as soon as you pause after inhale or exhale, your brain primes to attention because it's like, hey, what's happening to the oxygen? Where has it gone? And the effect of that, because it's not actually straining your brain, you're not pushing it to a level of it in any kind of danger, is that suddenly your mind goes there immediately, and all of those thoughts and fluttering vrittis, as we say in yoga, or proliferation of mental constructions comes back, and you're just with breath. So that's probably why you're feeling the calming effect, is the impact, some of the changes in gas levels, which I don't have time to get into right now. But I would suggest that you maybe explore and nonetheless try this breath and see if it serves you. And if it doesn't, use what works. You're welcome. And Tom, I'll answer them, and then I'll need to go. Thank you, Strip.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks. Stripey.
Okay, I'll get it eventually.
It's Nikki Teal.
Nikki. Okay, that's easy.
Right.
Anne, and then Ruth, and then I'll need to.
Okay. Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to say about the chimes, and I had difficulty with them because what happened was, I think it might be my laptop setup or something, but I had a chime and then it reverberated the whole time. So I had this terrible sound. So I could just about differentiate where one chime started and the next finished. But I see some people are wearing earphones. Would that counteract that? I don't know what was happening for my PC.
That's your computer, and I have mine on specific settings to reduce the reverb, but it might be the case. But maybe have heard that from you. What I'll do is next time I use them is I'll use a different app, because this does have a reverb associated with it, probably being augmented by people's computers at the other end. But there are some that just go bing and it's done, and then bing.
Right.
So
this actually made me feel quite anxious because it was quite a strange sound and it was reverberating the whole time. I thought, oh my God, it's like really strange. So I didn't get the effect that I think everybody else did, but thank you.
Yeah, so maybe go on to, if you have a Spotify account, you can download, it's called Respire One, the app that I was using today. Or something else that'll allow you to be at 5 breaths a minute, inhaling 6, exhaling 6. Try that out and see if it has a different impact. But I will take that under review for the future. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the session.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And then finally, Ruth.
Finally, so I think.
Hey, I think it was me next.
It was.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth. Good morning, Heather. Thank you so much. Just a little question. Internet has been down. Is there any recording of this particular workshop? I only got the first part.
I do all of the recordings and put them on the Minded Institute YouTube channel. So you can go there and you can watch them for free. And also the retreats that I do is all there.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. I do love your workshops. Thank you indeed, Heather.
Thank you, thank you. And by the way, these issues that some of you are coming up with, like questioning about the pause, questioning about the reverb, other things that emerge, when I do the training, which will probably be 3 hours long, because I do a similar training for the NHS, obviously not at this moment, but I usually do. I'll address all of those kinds of things that come up and probably do it in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. All right, everybody, have a lovely rest of your day. Blessings to all of you. And I will see you hopefully Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. Share it with your friends. We have room for hundreds of people on this, so I'd like to benefit as many people as possible. Take care.
Thanks, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.